If you pay property taxes in your home or business, this show is for you. It's the Property Tax Show with Brad Hayes, Chicagoland's property tax expert on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back. With me in the studio is Stephen Reick, a candidate for District 63 of the Illinois House of Representatives, and he's from Harvard. Steve, what is your definition of a conservative?
A conservative is a person who looks to the future while recognizing the fact that we did a lot of really good things in the past, and we should try to maintain and build upon them without throwing them overboard. I consider myself a very fiscal conservative. I don't believe the state should be spending more money than it brings in, and I don't believe that the state should be spending borrowed money and treating it as revenue. I think that's a conservative position. Conservative is the kind of guy who, basically gets up and goes to work in the morning, comes home at night to the same wife he's been married to for 35 years, and enjoys, the kind of life that the older you get, the more you realize you're just like your parents to a great degree.
Yeah.
And, my dad's been gone for 15 years now. It's 18 years. And the older I get, the more I realize how much like him and my mother I am. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
It is. If elected, what are the key issues that you'd like to work on?
Education funding, pension funding, Medicaid, and how all that folds into the making of a budget, and hopefully making a concerted effort to bring Illinois back onto an even keel so it can attract new business and jobs.
What can you say to our listeners that would convince them that you're the better choice to represent District 33 than your opponent?
The first one is that after 18 years, I believe my opponent is playing out the string. He's the status quo. For 9 terms, he's voted for Mike Madigan as Speaker. For 9 terms, he's voted for the House rules, which the Speaker uses to keep legislation that is needed in this state off the agenda. And frankly speaking, he has not really come up with any substantive ideas on the things that really matter in this state. I've never heard him propose anything in terms of pension reform, although he did vote in 2005 for the Blagojevich pension holiday, which kept 2 years of pension payments from being made. That's going to cost this state over $100 billion over the terms of the payout. That's a tax increase. He's always claimed he's never voted for a tax increase, but that is a tax increase because it's coming out of our pockets to pay for something that has to be paid. He's the status quo. I like to think that what I offer are fresh ideas on education funding, on how we get the budget back under control, and it's time, and face it, Bruce Rauner carried the 63rd District by 36%. That was a mandate under anybody's circumstances. And they elected my opponent, and I think they reelected him with the expectation that he was going to go down to Springfield and do what he could to help the governor enact the agenda that he ran on, and the people of the 63rd District said, yes, this is what we want. Well, it hasn't worked out that way. He just got a 35% rating from the Illinois Manufacturers Association, primarily on the strength of 5 votes, all of which were contrary to what the governor had proposed dealing with workers' comp reform. So he's basically a Mother May I Democrat. When Mike Madigan needs that vote, and that 2005 pension holiday vote passed by 2 votes, my opponent was one of those 2 votes, then it's time for a change. Bruce Rauner's got 2 years left on his term. We've got to start getting things done now, or, is he going to run? Will he run again? Will he just throw his hands up and say, hey, look, I can't deal with these people? I'm not saying I'm going to be a knee-jerk supporter of everything the governor does. I support the overwhelming majority of what he's trying to do. But I think that what we need to do is make a change, and nothing's going to happen unless more Republicans are brought into the caucus and fewer Democrats, because as long as Mike Madigan has that 71 votes on his side of the aisle for the important votes, Bruce Rauner is going to get nowhere. And he needs to have 2 years where people actually put bills out there that hit the floor and people are able to vote on, debate and vote on, and maybe we can start moving this state back into some sort of solvency.
Are you in favor of term limits?
Ironically, no. I think that term limits are just another excuse for people to say, hey, look, he's only going to be there 6-8 years. How much damage can he do? I think the best term limits are the ballot box. And I grew up in the 60s, and that's what I believe in. It's what I was taught in civics, and that's what I believe in.
Sure. This is Brad Hayes with the Property Tax Show. In the studio with me is Stephen Reick, candidate for District 63 of the Illinois House of Representatives. And we will be right back after we hear from our sponsors.